Hi, how's everyone doing today, and welcome back to the channel. Real quick before I get into this video, once again I'm going to be shouting out Player's Choice Gridiron. It's a podcast episode that I got to be invited on and be a guest on. We talked about the Russell Wilson trade, we made a draft, there were so many things that we talked about. We even got into a heated Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert debate. Little newsflash, I am more lenient to go with Justin Herbert than I am Joe Burrow, but it did get heated. It was a great conversation. Go check them out. They'll be linked into my bio. You'll see a screenshot of what the video will look like, and I'm on the top left corner. Go show some love to them. I know they want to really build this podcast up. They have a basketball version that's super popular and hopefully get to 100,000 just like the basketball one. But in today's video, we have some breaking news other than the Deshaun Watson trade. We have to talk about the Amari Cooper trade to the Cleveland Browns, and it kind of ties into this narrative that I've kind of been pushing recently, which has been, I think Baker Mayfield is a better fit with the Las Vegas Raiders, and Derek Carr should go be the Cleveland Browns quarterback. I think AC/DC should return, and if you don't know the trade details, we're talking about Amari Cooper with a 5th round pick is getting sent to the Cleveland Browns. I believe the Cowboys are only getting a 5th and the 6th round pick, which doesn't seem super fair, but when you realize that the news broke about the release, Cowboys had no leverage whatsoever, so they really got to see if they could even get a 7th, 6th, or 5th round pick. They get a pair of both, but they also give away a 5th round pick. And I won't really be talking about the Cowboys side of things. It's a very complicated situation as there's Zeke Elliott. They have a lot of very expensive guys on that roster, and I completely understand why they wanted to move off of those guys. I want to more focus on the Cleveland Browns side of things as they got the best player by far. This is almost like a free agency signing for him. They didn't really have to give up much to get him. And once again, the Cleveland Browns are getting a high-level profile wide receiver for their team, and Baker Mayfield is still their quarterback. Now, I understand OBJ is a very different wide receiver versus Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper and OBJ are very good, fantastic route runners, and I think that he will fit their offense pretty good. I also expect Jarvis Landry most likely will be off the team. I don't know where David Njoku will be. And I still think they might end up having to draft a guy like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, or a Drake London potentially, go get a big possession receiver to pair with Amari Cooper. But the problem still is there, and his name is Baker Mayfield. And I am not a huge fan of Baker Mayfield. I loved him coming out of college. I thought his swag and his ego was very entertaining, but I didn't really think it would translate to the NFL, let alone a #1 overall pick. A lot of people forget he was not even projected to be the #1 overall pick coming out of there. And it was kind of a surprise when it happened because a lot of people expected Sam Darnold to go #1, which, I mean, hindsight, Baker's better than Sam Darnold at least. But the problem with Baker Mayfield is I don't think he really fits well in this offense, and his mechanics and his injuries, and a lot of people want to scratch off his injuries this past year, and I understand that, but he did play through them. He hasn't looked fantastic in previous years. He's had some really good highs and some very low lows. That Packers game was just a perfect example this past year on how he limits that team. Everywhere around him was playing fantastic except for him, and it's the reason why they lost to one of the better teams in the NFL, even though they did lose to the 49ers because of Aaron Rodgers. But the Browns have been limited by Baker time and time again, and I would not be surprised if they tried to make a call to the Las Vegas Raiders, because the Raiders, as you can see in my previous video, I have said that they should go into a rebuild because they are most likely not making it in the playoffs. They're going to be in mediocrity. They would have to be retooling their team, and I don't think Derek Carr's value is going to be any higher than what it is right now, and you're going to most likely have to pay him after this year. Why would you not pay for Derek Carr to be on the Browns, and the Browns could actually make a big-time run? Now, I don't know how far they would get, barring that maybe the Steelers could end up getting Deshaun Watson, and then that division gets super, super complicated. But I do think Deshaun Watson does end up going into the NFC. And right now, the AFC North is kind of wide open. As much as I want to say the Bengals are going to be right back, time and time again, the winner of that division doesn't always consistently win, unless their name is the Steelers back in the 2000s. As the past couple years, we've had Baltimore win, we've had Cleveland, I believe, win once, we've had the Steelers, obviously, and now the Bengals. It's kind of a revolving door, and now the Bengals, I do expect to make a big-time move, maybe to go get a Lyle Collins from the Cowboys, just referencing another Cowboys thing. They have a lot of retooling to do, and the Steelers are still looking for a quarterback. Now, they may go young and get a Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't really see them as a potential contender to win the division at that point. But if they go get a veteran quarterback, potentially a Jimmy Garoppolo, which would be really interesting, I think that the Browns are looking to upgrade at quarterback. They wouldn't want to give Baker a big time amount of money. I would understand if they wanted to potentially give him a lesser contract, but I think Baker sees himself as much more than that, as he's their only franchise guy over the past 20 years. And then what I'm envisioning is, I think for his career, and if I'm Baker Mayfield, I would almost be welcome to moving to the Las Vegas Raiders. Even though it is the Raiders, Josh McDaniels' offense is what I imagine would fit Baker's skill set the best. Get the ball out of his hands, don't let him run around, don't let him potentially get hurt or hit. And I think that he would be the most efficient player that he's ever been. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Josh McDaniels signing. I said it in my last video. If you want to go see how I feel about the entire Raiders organization and their future moving forward, go check out my last video. But right now, when it comes to Baker, I said this on my TikTok, I do believe that Baker would fit better in Josh McDaniels' offense. He still has a bell cow of a running back. The offensive line isn't great in Las Vegas, but I still think they could really readjust it. And I don't know, maybe for Baker, he needs to get out of Cleveland now. I don't think Las Vegas is the best place for him, but I do think that Cleveland has kind of turned their back on him, and he is in a prove-it year. Now, one trend that I think I have noticed with the Cleveland Browns is when the expectations are high, they do not meet them whatsoever. We remember the year, I believe it was 2019 or 2020, they were expected to do really good. 2020, they weren't expected to do as good, but then they obviously made the playoffs. They beat the Steelers. This year, their expectations were through the roof. They really did not meet them. So they're primed to most likely this year overachieve, but it's whether or not Baker is the guy that's going to end up overachieving. Now, he has the expectations are on the floor. Now, if the Browns do want to end up moving forward with him, I do think this is his last year to really prove that he could be a starting viable quarterback, as a lot of people are super low on him. His mechanics look terrible, whether that's injury or not. We will just have to see as we move on into this season, as he's getting a full offseason to rehab that shoulder. And a shoulder injury is no joke, especially for a quarterback position. But I do think now let's look at, say Baker is on that team. I did say that I think Derek Carr would most likely get him to potentially an AFC championship. That's how good their defense is and how high of a draft pick they have. They could definitely leverage that to maybe make another trade or get a very good rookie player that could really change that team. I mean, we saw where Micah Parsons went. They could definitely hit on that draft pick, and they have the past couple years. But let's imagine the future moving forward with Baker Mayfield. I imagine it as they're limited, but their offense could be really good as long as Stefanski truly trusts Baker Mayfield to make some throws, and he hasn't as of recent. But I think with them being so stingent on not trusting Baker, especially in crunch time at late time games, and especially on one-score games, I don't think they trust him in the moment, and they should end up probably just handing the ball off to Nick Chubb, but that's not in that moment what you need. And I think that Baker Mayfield is what's going to win them games and lose them games at the end of the day, because everywhere around that roster, it's really well built. But I'm not a big believer in Baker. I don't think he's going to do great this season. I think he's a below average quarterback. His mechanics and his vision is atrocious, and his pocket awareness is terrible. And I hope he surprises me. Hopefully that statue ends up being a good luck charm for him in Oklahoma, because, man, I am not a high believer on Baker Mayfield, and I think the Browns should move off of him. And this Amari Cooper trade, I think, is a win-now move. And if you want to go all in this year, trade for Derek Carr. If you're at this point of the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I know this ended up being a Baker Mayfield roast for the most part, but I'm not a big believer, and I do think the Browns need to make a move for a better guy like Derek Carr and bring AC/DC to Cleveland. I think it would be a fantastic fit for him. He's a tough guy, and I think Derek Carr would be the perfect match made in heaven. Also, the Indianapolis Colts as well. And I think Cleveland is readying themselves up in a tough AFC conference to win now, because they know the roster that they have isn't going to last for much longer, as guys are going to ask for more money. If you'd like to leave a comment down below of how you feel, please do. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.